In this video, you're going to learn the top 6 money moves you can make in 2025 because I'm recording this at the start of the year and you might have promised yourself that this is the year you're finally going to get a gym membership, you're going to cut down on alcohol and be better with money. Now, I can't help you with the first 2, but there are 6 smart things you can do to set yourself up for success with your money in 2025. Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. I'm Ed, an economist and property investor here at Opus Partners, and over the last 6 to 8 years, my life has completely changed. I've gone from being absolutely terrible with money to now investing in property and owning part of a business. And while I'm not all the way through my journey yet, I'm here to tell you what I've learned. So these tips come from things I've actually tried and have found work. And the first is to give yourself a wake-up call and scare yourself into investing. Because if you just watch another video on YouTube with someone saying, be better with your money, you're probably not going to do anything. So here's one thing I like to tell investors to do. Ask yourself 3 questions. How old are you right now? How long have you been working for? And when are you going to stop working, slow down, and retire? I'll give you an example. Let's say that you're 45 and you want to retire at 65. Well, you're probably roughly halfway through your working life. So let's say you add up your KiwiSaver, any savings you've got, maybe your home equity, and let's say that it adds up to 125 grand. Well, you're halfway through your working life, so take that and double it, 250K. If you repeat the first half of your working life, that's roughly what you're going to have for retirement. Now, when some people go through this exercise, they find it really reassuring. They're like, sweet, I'm sort of in my retirement. For others, it's a wake-up call. Now, that little process, it's a bit overly simplistic because your income's got to go up as you get older. Generally, you start out not earning much in your first job, then you get more money as you get more experience. But for a lot of investors to get going, they need something like this to get that wake-up call. One point where you realize, actually, I do need to do something, and that gives you that motivation. For me, I was like 23. And I remember being in bed at like 2 a.m. in the morning and staring at the ceiling, and I was thinking about money in my life, and I thought, well, how do you actually get wealthy? And in that moment, I realized that it's actually not about your income. It's not what you earn. It's about assets, what you own. What you own is what makes you money and makes you wealthy. That was the moment that started me on my journey. For Te Ahuru, who's a teacher based in Whakatane, I just recently interviewed her on the Property Academy podcast. She was close to 40, and she was seeing people around her in her town who were working right up until they were 70, and she thought, there's got to be a better way. Now, that kick-started her journey, and 18 months later, she's $280,000 better off. And you should definitely go and listen to her story. It was so motivational. I'll put the link down to that podcast in the description. Now, this is a bit of a controversial one. It's getting your income up. A lot of people make New Year's resolutions saying that they want to spend less. That way you can save and you can invest more. But cutting back on your household budget is actually really hard. And if you're on a low income, cutting back may not even be possible. I remember in my second ever job, I earned a salary of about $45,000 a year. And I lived in Auckland, where it costs way more to live than in my hometown of South Taranaki. So on that 45K a year, there wasn't a lot of fat in my budget that I could cut. It's not like I could save way more by spending way less. It just wasn't an option. The awkward but much easier thing that I did back in 2018, this wasn't actually that long ago, was I got back to work in January and I negotiated a pay rise with my boss because frankly, I was underpaid at the time. And that day, I managed to negotiate my salary up to $70,000. It was a 25K pay rise from that day. And not everybody can do this, but let me tell you, that was life-changing. It made it way easier because it meant that I could actually start to save and invest more without cutting back. You see, cutting back is hard. Earning more income, especially if you're lower paid, that is going to make a way bigger difference in terms of how easy it is for you to save and invest. And one option I like to tell people to do is to ask your boss, well, what do I need to do to earn an extra $10,000 pay rise or $5,000 pay rise this year? And I like this question because it's a conversation starter. You're not going in for the kill straight away. You're not asking for that raise right now. You're finding out what you need to do to make it happen. Now, of course, you could adjust that number to suit your situation. If you're early in your work life, you might ask what you need to do to get a 5K pay rise. If you're already in a really senior role, you might be gunning for an extra 20K. Just bear in mind that if you're in a big organization, you might have pay brackets. For instance, if you work at a bank. So the question might be, well, what do I need to do to get into the next pay bracket? The whole point is you are asking for your next step, because once you follow through on whatever your boss says, it's easier to ask for that pay rise. And of course, the best way to earn more is to become more valuable to your company. And it helps to find out, well, what's your boss actually going to find valuable first? And if you want to see more videos about how to be better with your money, make sure you hit the like button. That's how I know whether you actually want to see more of these types of videos. And yes, it really does help the YouTube algorithm too. And while you're down there, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We are on our way to grow this community to 50,000 subscribers. Number 3, another controversial one, stop saving and start investing. If you have money lying around in a savings account, how easy is it to spend just a little? It's really easy because the money's right there. You're tempted to dip into those funds on a almost weekly basis. So instead of saving, put your money into assets like shares, managed funds, or property. Because when you invest and you start buying assets, you start to shift your mindset. Now you're building something for the future. You don't just have money lying there. And this also adds a bit of friction that makes it harder for you to spend. I remember when I was 19, I had a Rabobank managed fund. Now it wasn't a lot of money, it was maybe $500. But if I wanted to spend that money, I had to go home to my flat, find the little code generator that they sent me. I had to log in on my computer and sell the units in the managed fund before I could actually spend the money. So I couldn't just dip into my investments when I was at a bar at 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. at night. And when you do this, once you start buying assets like shares and managed funds or units in a managed fund, you start asking yourself, is it really the right time to sell? So you're more likely to stick with it by adding that friction in. The other thing is an investment in a managed fund, shares or property, that's probably going to grow in value more quickly than the 3% interest rate you might get if you leave your savings in a bank. I'm lazy. So number 4 is to put your investing on autopilot. You need to make investing this automatic habit. So if I take you back about 7 years, before Sharesies, Hatch, Kernel, before any of those online platforms were even a thing, I opened an account with Craig's Investment Partners. Now, I wasn't earning a lot at the time, and I think I was putting something like $100 a month into an investment account with them. And that $100 a month, it would just automatically come out of my normal bank account every single month. I didn't have to think about it, didn't have to make an active decision about should I invest or not this month. And that way your wealth is going to just build on autopilot. Now, if I think about today, I invest a lot more in property, but the principle is still really similar. So you buy a house once, and with today's interest rates, you're going to have to top up those bank accounts to cover all of the costs because interest rates are quite high. Now, all that happens on autopilot. My money comes into my bank account every week, and on the day I get paid, the money automatically gets transferred out to my property accounts. And I recommend you do it on the day you get paid, because then you don't get that feeling of, I'm really rich when the money hits your account, and then you feel a little bit sad and poorer once the money goes out. And I think most people get investing wrong. They think my money comes in, then I spend my paycheck day to day, and then I'm going to invest what's left. But how much is often left over at the end of the week, fortnight, or month? Probably not a lot. So you've got to invest in your future first. You've got to make it a priority, and you've got to make it automatic. Your future self deserves more than just whatever the leftover funds are. Number 5 is to keep your mortgage payment the same even as interest rates fall. So interest rates peaked last year at about 7.4% for the 1-year rate. Today we're sitting closer to 5.6%. It's a massive 1.8% drop. So your mortgage is probably going to get a bit cheaper as you refix your interest rate. One option you've got is to keep paying your mortgage as if it's on that really high interest rate if you can. So let's say you've been paying 7.2%. and you've got a $500,000 mortgage. If you refix at 5.7%, but you keep paying the mortgage like it's 7.2, you're going to shave 9 years off your 30-year mortgage. If interest rates fall further, you'll pay it off even faster. Now, if I can say this, these high interest rates have been a very, very small blessing in disguise, because you've already proven to yourself that you can handle those high repayments, so use that to your advantage. Of course, if those high interest rates have been too punishing, if you're really struggling, don't be scared to take the lower rate and get a bit more fat in your household budget. And number 6, the final thing you can do to set yourself up for money success in 2025 is scheduling money dates with your partner. You see, money issues are one of the biggest stresses in relationships, not because of numbers just going in and out, but because of all of the emotions attached to it. The way I think about it is there are very few business partners, people who own businesses together, who would ignore the financials of their shared business. But you and your partner, you are business partners, and the business is your household, the business is your life, so you need to talk about money. And I originally got this idea and advice from a great book, The Barefoot Investor. And what Scott says in his book is that you need to have a regular money date with your partner every single month. Of course, if you've got a partner. So once a month, sit down, look at your money, discuss it. And one of the big things I've realized with my fiance is that I have a lot of money plans in my head. And I might think that she can read my mind. I might think that she knows what I reckon our next money moves are going to be. But unless we talk about it, how's she going to know what's happening in my head? And how am I supposed to know what she is thinking too? So chances are you and your partner are both thinking about money in your heads all of the time. So you've got to get that out of your head. You've got to get it in the open so that you are actually on the same page. And once you do that, things will happen in your money life much, much faster.